You are good to go.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April Coalition meeting. If you haven't done so yet, if you could just go ahead in the chat box, put your name, preferred pronouns, and then your organization, that would be wonderful. And it's great to see so many faces that were also at the summit. You guys are so dedicated. I love it. So let's go ahead and begin. If I could have the next slide, I'm just going to go over our agenda for today. Can you advance the slide, Michael? Yeah, that's you today, because Vico. See, this is what happens when Vico's not here. One more advance. Okay. So very excited to announce that we have a new work group. As many of you know, Ann Yellett and others have been running the Prioritizing Mental Health and Education work group, or group rather, in terms of how it began. And we now have it as part of the coalition. So we're going to start today with a presentation from Anne and Chelsea around the work that they've done and what they will be doing, and also an invitation for people to join if that's something that you're interested in and you're not already a part of. I know that there's some overlap in the membership already. Then we'll do a youth health action team update with our wonderful youth health action team. We're going to talk about the health summit and just kind of do a little debrief on how that went. Oh, the slides went away, Michael. A reminder about the strategic plan and stuff that's coming up with that. And then surprise, it's time for us to do elections. So we're going to talk about a call for nominations for our chair and vice chair. Also, we're going to update you on a drug-free communities grant. I actually just left the health department. Michael and I were working on submittal for that. So exciting updates there. Then we'll talk again about that membership form I'm trying to get everybody to fill out, and then do a little bit of a wrap up. So I know we spent a lot of time at the summit and had a really busy day there. I recognize we still have a pretty busy agenda today, but I think we'll be able to get through it, somewhat quickly. So if I could have the next slide. With that, I want to introduce our newest work group. And so Ann Yellett and Chelsea Forer are going to talk about the work that they've done, and then also talk about how they're coming in under the coalition's umbrella. So Ann, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome, officially.
And I think that it's Chelsea that's actually starting us off with the first couple of slides, and then I'll be bringing up the rear, so to speak. And we're definitely we're aiming for time for question and answer after we present the information in the slides. And we have, I think, 20 minutes, so that's what we're aiming to stay within that time frame.
Thank you. Is Chelsea on yet?
And that's what I was just wondering about, because if not, I can start and then she can join. But is she not with us yet?
I'm not seeing her in the list of participants. So it's up to you. We could.
Okay. Well, I can get us going. We definitely worked on this together, and also talked it over with the interim steering committee for this group. So thank you all. We're really glad to bring forth some more information about our Prioritizing Mental Health and Education Collaborative Group, which is now officially identified as a work group of this Pima Behavioral Health Coalition. So, Michael, if you're handling the slides, if you can take us to the next slide. So we've been pulling this group together collaboratively with a number of other organizations in the community, really since about November of let's see, it would have been 2022. So about a year and a half ago or so. And kind of really overlapped, really. We started developing this group as a result of the youth input at dialogue circles that were held at 3 different Youth and Peace conferences from 2020, 2021, 2022, and then 2023 for that matter, this last year.
And
but at that
Chelsea-
time, it was
Chelsea just joined, so if you
good.
want to hand it over to her.
Okay. Well, I'll keep going on this bit,
Okay.
and then I'll
So
turn it
whenever
over to
you're
Chelsea.
ready.
Okay. This kind of there were some of us connected with the Teen Town Hall, so the dialogue circles that had happened at several different teen town halls that the Metropolitan Education Commission operates, and then, as I mentioned, dialogue circles that were at least 3 different Youth and Peace conferences, and we were meeting also with the Center for Community dialogue and facilitation that has been really in charge of those dialogue circles. So we spent a day on November 5th, 2022, looking at all of the input from all of the youth that were at all those different dialogue circles, and came away realizing that there was a clear call from the youth for prioritizing mental health in education, for focusing in on that. We started off calling it advancing systemic change in education to prioritize mental health, and that was obviously too long, so we shortened it to prioritizing mental health in education. And Chelsea, if you want to take over at this point for reviewing these couple of next slides, and then I'll pick up at the end with the last few slides.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hi, folks. Apologies for the slight delay. I got stuck on another meeting and then I jumped on it. It was already happening. So hi, happy, Thursday afternoon. My name is Chelsea Forer. I work for the Metropolitan Education Commission. Really excited to be co-presenting with Anne about prioritizing mental health in education as the newest work group of this coalition. Super excited about that. If we could go ahead and advance to the next slide, okay, perfect. So now that Anne has told you a little bit more about what we strive to do, kind of what our goal and dream is for this work group, we wanted to make sure to give you all some breakdown about what the work group looks like. What's the structure? How does this work? So prioritizing mental health and education prior to becoming a work group met monthly and had its own interim steering committee. And now that we have formally become a work group, we've still maintained those components. So we have a working interim steering committee, and myself, as well as Chris Medvesic and Deanne Arroyo. And we're always looking for more folks from the kind of broader work group to join that interim steering committee, as well as potentially, have new leadership here in the coming year. We do have a monthly work group meeting. So separate from this coalition meeting, we meet to talk about our priorities and actions monthly. We also have a designated representative of the work group on the steering committee for the coalition. And currently that's myself. I'm glad to be able to kind of hold both spaces and communicate between those groups. And then one of the steering committee members of the coalition also attends our monthly meetings. So there's a lot of crosstalk, and all of this is just so that we're all on the same page. And last but not least on this slide, we want to increase our work group. So anybody, as we continue through these slides, who is like, I totally want to get down with this work group, please join us. We would love for you to meet with us on a monthly basis and be part of this, really fun planning and action planning within the work group. Okay, we can go to the next one. All right, Anne, do you want me to take this one or do you want to take this?
Why don't you go ahead and take this one, and then I'll take the next one.
Perfect. So one of the conversations we have all been having as a work group is around the topic of youth and youth perspective, and also how we are being centered and also driven by our youth perspectives. And our group members come from a variety of different experiences, some of whom have youth groups themselves, some of whom work for organizations that facilitate youth services. All of that being said, the membership so far has thought that a hybrid structure of both youth-centered and youth-driven is probably where our specialty lies. So we are youth-centered in being a group of adults focused on youth programming, centering youth in our conversations, uplifting their voices, but also providing support for youth who are leading their own projects around mental health, be it in schools or other youth led environments. So if we go down to the blue section here, partially youth-centered, prioritizing mental health and education, we seek to empower youth voices around mental health and education. Youth are being actively sought and invited to join this working group if they're interested in that. And when they do that, if they do that, they serve as equal partners with the adults in the room, not simply as the driving force, because we know they have less time to be at as many meetings as we all do. And as a working group of the coalition, prioritizing mental health and education amplifies youth perspectives to a larger audience by being in this space as a work group of the coalition. And then how are we youth driven? We have youth leadership groups at both my organization, the MEC, and Anne's organization, Tucson Youth in Peace, who will kind of be potentially the youth drivers for reaching into school contexts and understanding what's happening there already around mental health and supporting those initiatives, and then also joining us when we lead school visits, and even potentially being youth peer-to-peer conversation starters around things like community dialogue circles. All right, I think that's it for this slide.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as Chelsea was just kind of stressing in a sense in her presentation, that one of our major goals is strengthening youth voices. So finding different avenues for uplifting youth voice and supporting youth leadership opportunities for a larger number of students. So more and more students get the opportunity to engage in leadership opportunities. So that's something that we see that our group is particularly interested in. And, you know, also kind of looking at that, again, that importance of including youth perspectives in any kind of work that's going on about mental health in terms of schools, education, places where youth voice is important to listen to and make decisions, you know, in making decisions about services. So that's a big part of really what we see ourselves doing. At our last meeting, we were looking at what activities did we want to prioritize moving forward, and recognizing that we're all in the midst of this strategic planning process that the coalition is engaged in. So what in the end, you know, our group is going to be focused on will really be determined and driven by the larger strategic planning processes. And so this last point on here about engaging parents and educators in conversations about mental health, that came forth in the last meeting that we had just last week, because we meet on the fourth Tuesday of the month. The week before, well, sometimes the week before and sometimes 2 weeks before this meeting on the first Thursday of the month. And we recognize that this came forth by some of the folks that were in that meeting and talking about the importance, not just of uplifting youth voice, but also of finding ways to engage parents and educators in more meaningful ways. And again, we see that this will be in keeping with other work groups of the coalition and other work in general that's going to be spelled out through our strategic planning collaborative, the collective strategic planning process. And then moving on to the next slide. And kind of judging or moving from those activities or those goals rather into some activities. These are some activities that we have brainstormed, discussed, but again, we have not finalized these activities as a work group because again, we're really waiting for the outcome, the collective outcome of the strategic planning process. But this gives you some feel of some of the activities that we've talked about engaging in. And one is really reaching out into the community, identifying various youth leadership programs that are existing in the community, particularly any of them that overlap with and have an interest in mental health, which our understanding is that almost every youth leadership group has some involvement right now in mental health concerns because it's such an important issue for youth today. They recognize, they see the need for more mental health services to address the crisis that exists in our community. So identifying different youth leadership groups and forming a list of those, forming information about those that can be provided when people go out to speak in school. So if youth are interested in getting engaged, there's a way they can see what's going on in the community and how to connect with different groups. We're also talking about identifying after we've got that list together, then pulling together those groups. That's another thing that we're interested in, is pulling all those youth leadership groups together to look at how they can assist each other, support each other in the work they're doing, and potentially engage more youth in leadership opportunities in the community. We've also talked a bit about rather than trying to come up with a mental health program that we'd be, kind of rolling out for all schools, rather to look at what are individual schools engaged in already with regard to mental health programming and services, and how can we support those programs by connecting those schools with organizations, programs going on in the community that address the issues and services that they're trying to provide in their school. So being that bridge building kind of between what youth and educators are saying they want in their schools and what's available out in the community. So that kind of gives you a feel of where we're heading with regard to activities, and we're excited to also let you know that we've been able to engage at least one, and we think two, individuals who are going to be interns with our Prioritizing Mental Health and Education group. We're doing that in partnership with Pima Prevention Partnership and their AmeriCorps program. So those interns are going to be paid through an AmeriCorps program that Pima Prevention Partnership runs. And I think, was there anything else, Chelsea, that we wanted to kind of present to people before we open it up for some question and answer? And again, we're so hopeful that some of you are going to be like, oh, okay, this is definitely a group we're interested in checking out and perhaps joining.
No, I think that was it, Anne. Thank you so much for taking the lead there. And we're just really excited to be part of the coalition as they're doing strategic planning, because we were also found ourselves in the same position. And so all of this kind of idea creation and brainstorming is really fruitful, and hopefully will lead to some really clear, actionable steps for the coming academic year. So really excited to hear feedback and questions from everyone.
And just checking on our time, because I wasn't keeping as close view as I wanted to. We've got about 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes left. Okay.
5 minutes. Great
Great.
job.
Thanks, Rebecca. Good.
So I'm seeing in the chat, Kathy, that's great. She's saying, sign me up to join. So she's going to be one of your newest work group members. Questions from anyone? Comments? Well, I just want to say I'm really excited to have you guys officially a part of the coalition. And I know a lot of work has already gone in to this work group. And I'm really excited to see, where we can take it from here. I think the timing is perfect with the strategic planning process because we're going to be exploring all of this in terms of how we can bring the two together. And make sure that we're moving together in an effective way. So like Chelsea mentioned, we do have overlap. So we have Chelsea on the steering committee now, and then Adrian, our co-chair, is attending the work group meetings just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So I don't know if you guys are seeing the chat section, but it looks like you got a bunch of new members, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm copying down names
great.
and email addresses as we're going, and definitely excited to see people being interested. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. So next we have a Youth Health Action Team update from a couple of members of our amazing Youth Health Action Team. So we have Maritza, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Maritza, and Kirtana. Did I say those names correctly? I'm getting a thumbs up from Michael. Yay. And Kirtana is going to present. So I know, Kirtana, you had some trouble getting on, but I think you're on now, right?
Yes, I think I was joining with the wrong link. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so we had a couple more meetings since the last time we talked with all of you guys. And so we had a virtual and an in-person meeting, and then we also had some White Hat members speak at this at the PBHC Youth Mental Health Summit. I don't know if any of you were there, but that was a big success, and we are very glad that there are so many educators and so many just adults who are interested in this issue. Some updates are we've narrowed down, so we decided to do one big project for these 3 months since it's not a lot of time. And so we have 4 subgroups: outreach, research, media, and web design. So our final project will be all in one website sort of, so we can access media and all of this. So it's long lasting and you can build on for future years and semesters. So for outreach, their action plans are researching effective and realistic ways to get involved in schools. And Marissa will talk a little bit about that a little later. And then for web design, they're creating a website for us. And then for research, they're currently right now they're researching 4 main causes, and they're going to use that statistics to put on different media like bookmarks, I don't know, stickers and stuff like that on the website, definitely. And then media, they're finishing designing their sticker, which is very exciting. We're going to be printing that out very soon. Yeah, so that was a lot of what we've done. We're going to have a meeting pretty soon this week. And I don't know, is there anything you'd like to add, Maritza?
Yeah, so part of what we were looking into recently, at least the exec team, was having possibly having the research team look into city council meetings, like if we could either present a bill or advocate for a specific actionable policy to our city council and make a meeting with our youth members and kind of talk to actual officials. We're looking into if we could actually do that. I think it'd be a good way to spend our time outside of making this website and the other additional things we're going to add to it. We're going to hopefully be through videos creating potential testimonials about other youth and how they presenting a more realistic perspective of what mental health issues have been in our community and putting those on the website. But that's if the students volunteer to do that. But yeah, I think that's the only thing that was missing from Kirtana's presentation.
Wonderful. Questions for our Youth Health Action Team? I'm amazed at, I mean, you guys have a few months and you're already going and creating some really great stuff. So very impressed. Michael and then Kathy.
Hey, so first of all, I wanted to thank you for the brilliance that you offered as thought partners at our Youth Mental Health Summit. I did put a photo in the chat for folks. I just feel so much pride that y'all are in the space and kind of pushing the envelope. I think what you're doing is really impressive. One of the things that I wanted to float by y'all, if you could take back to the Youth Health Action team, is so I work for the Pima County Health Department. Y'all, I think, know me by now to some extent, but I think what I can probably organize for y'all, if you're interested, I don't know how soon, but we could plant the seed now if you wanted to do like a Youth Health Action team town hall with the senior leadership of the health department. And so this could allow you to talk about youth mental health issues, access, like barriers to access. You could talk about substance use and addiction. You could focus in on your primary topic of suicide prevention. Right. But if that's something that you're interested in, I can, run this through leadership. And I just think what an amazing opportunity to center young voices and get y'all connected into the conversation about how the health department in general can be in service to you and your vision for what we could be doing for youth populations. So yeah, just want to put that out there. And do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that sounds amazing. I think from what we've been talking about, like in the White Hat meetings, a lot of youth want to take more actions, like where we can talk to actual leadership and like highlight exactly what we want to be done. And so being able to meet with any sort of authority, especially like what you've just outlined, I think would be really beneficial towards our end goal, which is to prevent suicide or to advocate for like a more diverse perspective in suicide prevention.
Yeah. So, and if I can add to that, there's a couple of things. What I want to make sure is that as you offer your time, it's as valuable as possible, right? And so that things are not just happening to happen, but there's actual pathways that lead to action. So at the health department, and y'all received this actually in your Y Hat manuals, is the community health needs assessment, or the CHNA, and the community health improvement plan. And so if I can set up a meeting where you give that direct feedback, we can actually feed that into those countywide plans for how young people are giving feedback about how the county can take broad systems level action. If that's of interest to you, I can try to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be of interest to the members. They're all very they're all very passionate and they definitely are very ambitious. So I think it would be something that at least I think we would have at least 5 to 6 members sign up for that outside of the executive team. And we, of course, Cortana and I and Hannah, who's the vice president, we would probably help like facilitate either bringing information or like conducting a survey with our members about specific points we would want to discuss and bring up. So
Okay.
I think that would be really beneficial.
I would
Okay,
definitely write that. Sorry.
Go
I will
ahead.
definitely write that down and send that to the Y Hat members, and we'll contact you as soon as possible. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and I think if our directors team obviously has a direct pathway to the Pima County Board of Supervisors, and of course they have connections to Tucson City Council and so on. But I'm thinking that as we pilot Youth Health Action Team this semester, right? We're rebuilding. We're in a rebuilding phase. I think what's going to be probably feasible and still achieve your goals is I think I can facilitate that with the highest level officials related to health in the county. And I would hope that I can center your voices, give you the stage to do that if it sounds like you're interested. So I think the action item is Vico is out today. And so I will touch base with Vico and Leah and Carl. And you'll see a communication come out to you just with some more information so that you have a clear action item so that you can communicate clearly to the broader membership, okay?
Yeah, and also something we forgot to mention that is part of like the Youth Health Action Team's goals is that we had brought up that there are efforts in the city, especially in TUSD, to like bring up mental health, and there's the Mental Health Matters Day, but that it hasn't really been effective in obtaining its goals because students don't take it seriously enough. And so something that we were looking into was potentially creating a toolkit to send to school officials on how they can properly engage in school leadership directly into TUSD Mental Health Matters Day, and having actual students that have been elected by students to serve other leadership roles to be directly involved in this effort. So that way that there's actual an actual connection between the student body and the officials, and it's not something that feels detached. And especially having like feedback on whatever's going to be presented or like even the topics selected to be covered. And hopefully we'll be able to outline that in a toolkit on so any like school official can adapt this into their initiatives at school or outside of school, and just like be more involved with bridging these two communities together. So I forgot to mention that, but yeah.
We have a lot of exciting things being said in the chat, but Kathy had her hand up first. So I'm going to go to Kathy and then we'll visit the chat section.
Okay, actually, I'm fairly quick here. There are just two things. I wanted to, number one, congratulate you on the presentation at last week's Youth Mental Health Summit. It was remarkable and made me feel much better than I usually feel at the end of the day after watching the news. Because I thought, to be honest, you gave us hope for the future because you have your act so much more together than I did personally when I was your age. And I was just amazed by your grasp of this, what you're dealing with, your way you articulated everything. I was just really impressed with your presentations. And please take that back to the other people that were on the panel, because I don't think there was anybody in the room that was not just amazed with the way you handled yourselves and what you were able to bring to the table, literally. The second thing I wanted to build on, kind of with what Michael was saying is, and particularly with what you were talking about with trying to engage more with some of the districts about Mental Health Day or whatever their particular districts are doing, is, and I think Julie's on here and had put something in the chat from TUSD, is perhaps after you present to the health department and maybe pull together what you would like to do for mental health days, is if you would like to maybe see if there's a way that you could present to the boards. And that would probably be not just TUSD's board, but I think we've got other districts here that might be able to help facilitate that, so that you could actually speak to the people that need to hear your voice. I don't know if Julie wants to hop in and weigh in on that and what she thinks as to what that would take, but I think it might be something that might be helpful to help the board understand really what the students are feeling, as opposed to always hearing from the professionals. And I'll hand off now.
Julie, did you want to respond to that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So exactly, concur with what has been said. Fabulous insights that we received last week. And so it really just as leadership in a large school district, I know that you've got some members from our school district, would really love to help and listen. I think you hit a key point, is that we don't have nearly enough youth voices happening with regard to policies and initiatives that we have in TUSD. So I would absolutely love to work with your team to get you in front of more district leadership and being a thought partner there, and also supporting if there's any additional youth that you might want to promote to get more youth involved. But I think it's a critical need that we're missing in our districts. there's a lot of adults that are making decisions that are not always in line with what students need. So I'm very interested in learning more about how we can help and support. So if there is a specific email that I can use to reach out to you and we can make a connection, I would love to support and make sure that we are meeting collective goals and making sure we have student voices at the forefront for all that we do.
So I'm going to chime in, and this is for you, Julie, and for everyone. Because we know the Youth Health Action Team is a very exciting initiative, we want to make sure that they're not getting pulled in a million directions, and that they can be selective about the help that they want to receive. So we'd like to funnel those through Vico, who is one of the adult supervisors of the Youth Health Action Team. So I'm going to put Vico's email in the chat. And then all of those pieces of information always make it back to the YHAT. But that way, the youth themselves, their inboxes aren't getting cluttered beyond just the adult supervisors, if that's okay.
Yeah, and I was going to say also, Michael, if they put together, let's say if they decide they want to present to you or to another organization, once they have that kind of together, then they can choose to then go to other districts. I mean, I don't want to say can't, but they'll have a presentation that then, if they need to, it shouldn't be like they have to build it every time for each organization. So hopefully that would make it easier.
Yeah, and I want to put in perspective, right now our general members are expected to spend anywhere between 3 to 5 hours a month on Youth Health Action Team activities, and our executive board 8 hours a month. So as you can see, that's time limited. So we're considering this period, even though they've already exceeded our wildest expectations, that we're considering this still a pilot, and so we're moving very lightly. So because as y'all know, as experts on the call, youth engagement requires a lot of trust and rapport, and so we got to make sure that we don't let these young folks down in any way. And so I just appreciate you moving as we navigate that. We're all trying to move with grace.
So I'm also seeing in the chat an offer from Brenda for the Youth Health Action Team to present to the Regional Behavioral Health Authority, which I think could be another great platform. Brenda, I don't know if you want to say anything about that or not, but I do think.
Hi, yeah.
Go ahead.
So, hi everyone. I'm Brenda Replogle. I work with the Regional Behavioral Health Authority, which is also an ACC plan or health plan. So it's an integrated care plan, and it is very strong with the mental health section of things. And so we have a couple. So I'm a youth advocate at the health plan level, as well as we have a TAY or transitional age youth liaison that works in the programming department. And we used to have youth councils that were active within our own provider agencies. And what we're looking to do is really get broad with having the youth action and youth voice, and how can we help to amplify that. And so we have a project idea of getting into the schools with health and wellness, starting from elementary. A group is wanting to start in the elementary section. Another group is already starting on the college side, and then there's another group that is tiptoeing into the high school side. So I think that with this power action group, this youth group that you guys have here, would be that push that we could use. And we do write in a lot of policies and sit in a lot of policy making meetings. So we would love to invite this youth group to come and talk to our leadership, and then see what type of relationship we can develop to where they are having that authority and that power that they need to be able to make sure that their voice is heard across all service systems regarding mental health and physical health, and that their voice is included in policy. Is what we're hoping. So if you guys are interested, or if the youth action group is interested, I would love to host you guys for our leadership.
Wonderful. So just so everyone knows, Vigo was not able to make it today, but we are recording this session. And the steering committee will also make sure that we bring this all back to Vigo to then present to the Youth Health Action Team. I am so excited at all of these opportunities. I think that this could be a really great way if the Youth Health Action Team is up for the challenge, which it sounds like they are, to be able to start presenting and talking to leadership. I'm going through the chat and I think we've addressed most everybody's questions. Is there anything else anyone would like to say to the Youth Health Action Team before we move to the next item on the agenda?
I was just going to say, let's get some reactions in the chat. I'll start it off with a little clap reaction.
You guys are amazing. All right, let's go on to the next item, which falls in line with the things that we were already talking about, but wanted to give a little bit of time. I know a lot of us were able to come together for the Youth Mental Health Summit. So we wanted to give a little time for reflections, and also Michael was going to share some of the preliminary data that came out of the summit. So Michael, I'm going to let you lead this part.
Yeah, what a fun thing. Okay, I'm going to find it really quick. I know exactly where it's at. Give me 1 second.
I did include the link, Michael, in the next slide, if that's helpful to you.
It is, yeah.
So if you go
Thank
down
you.
here, right there.
Yep.
Now, whether you can access it from here or not, I don't know. But
I think I can. Nope, that link is you're facing, but I know where it is, so I can see the backend data. That is the link for if you haven't done the survey, but I don't think you can access that. Okay, Youth Mental Health Summit, Summit 2024, evals. All right, it is loading. All right. Let me know if you can see this.
yes, we can see it.
All right, so I'm just going to quickly go through. I know we're, pushing up against time, but you can see that we have 49 responses, though I want to share that we had about 90 in attendance. So this is my ask for you. We don't have time to digitize a form, but we would love if you're willing to bend over backwards for us. If you attended this and you did not do a paper eval, if we can send you a PDF for you to print, complete, and scan back to us. If that is you, and you did not do an eval, put your email in the chat now, and we will follow up with you. These are super important, especially since this is a funded initiative. So we want to make sure that we're improving, especially as we look forward. Okay, so those emails in the chat. If you did a survey, do not put your email in the chat because we don't want to double survey you. All right, so you can see here's the breakdown of the youth serving professionals that attended. We had about 27% in behavioral health, 38% in K through 12 settings, and 34% in other. That includes community-based organizations, government entities, and so on. You can see we asked what percentage of your time do you work directly with youth? So the highest ranked category was 75 to 100% of their work time was serving young people, and you can see the breakdown otherwise. In terms of the organizations, right, we saw Pima County Health Department, Marina Healthcare, VUSD, Cope Community Services, Edge High School, City of Tucson, Pima Prevention, Akasha Elementary, right, CDC Foundation, Not My Kid, Marana, Counseling and Wellness, City of Tucson. You get the picture. There's a lot of representation, and we should feel really proud about that. This also gives us a snapshot of who do we know is really active in the community and is not collected here. That also is why it's so important that if you were not evaluated, that we get that information from you. Just some like quality feedback related information. So what you can see here is the color key is up here, red being strongly disagree, orange disagree, lighter blue agree, and darker blue strongly agree. And then you can see how this is spelled out. So we're seeing a lot of dark blue here. That means overwhelmingly folks were satisfied in a number of areas that we assessed for. In terms of rating knowledge, this is where we get into how effective were our morning presentations. At the conglomerate of the 49 responses, they said that before the session, the group felt like they were at about a 2.8 about how to support LGBTQ youth mental health. And after that increased to a 3.6. That is a huge success. We asked specifically for before in supporting transgender youth mental health. The group rated at about a 2.7 conglomerate, and that increased to a 3.5 after the presentation. We asked for how to support Native and Indigenous youth mental health before. This was our lowest at 2.4, and we saw the greatest level of change from this presentation up to a 3.4 conglomerate, right? So these are really good quantitative data for youth serving professionals. Again, the majority of the group, about 36%, said they were spending 75 to 100% of their time serving young people. So in terms of the overall, supporting the overall mental health of youth, the group said a 3.0 before and 3.7 after. So that's impressive. Of course, if we get more data from folks who maybe we missed or folks who had to leave early, we'll still get that. So these numbers might change slightly, but that's your preliminary look. Some qualitative things, right? I'll read this. I learned a lot about the duality of Native/Indigenous youth that they experience related to the ongoing effects of colonization and how this deepens lack of access to culturally responsive mental health resources, resulting in mental health disparities, is I think what that means. I will be reflecting on my role and accountability with the goal of increasing my understanding and capacity, right? Peer insight. People love the 504 plans, right, from the LGBTQ presentation. Just a lot of really good feedback there. How we also asked how they found out so we can increase our marketing and recruitment. If I saw a lot of supervisors showing up. So if you're a supervisor on this call, thank you for informing your staff about this opportunity. And I hope that we did you well in preparing your staff. Would you like to get involved? 88% said yes, and 11% said no. So that's a good response rate. And then a couple of emails here, right? And then just additional feedback. The day went fast. There were parts that didn't feel that way, but you know, this person thought it zoomed by. This is a good one, right? We talked about gender inclusive restrooms, but the Abrams Public Health Center doesn't offer that to the public. So, you know, just a lot of really good feedback that we're going to take into mind as we look to plan this event in the future. And I'll turn it back to you, Raquel, or if you want to hold questions or any feedback, I'll leave that up to you.
I think for the sake of time, we should move forward to the next item. But I, again, want to echo my appreciation to Michael and Vico and the other staff too at the Pima County Health Department that really organized this and put this on. I think it was a really great event. The fact that we had a wait list for it tells us that we're growing. And so I'm excited, like next year, we're not going to have it at the health department because they don't have enough room for us, right? Which is wonderful. So really looking forward to building upon this each year and making it bigger and more successful. So a lot more to come there. with that, let's turn back over. Michael, I'm going to give it back to you. I just want to do a quick strategic plan. There's a survey coming up if any of you guys remember, but just wanted to put a plug in for that survey that you will be getting.
Yeah, it's super important, y'all. So I just want to share with you that there's important dates, right? I want to remind everyone that we have invested $40,000 into a strategic planning process. So let's make the most of this resource. This is one of those areas where we need maximum participation from our Behavioral Health Coalition members. Beginning, we have a 1-week period that we are implementing this survey. So you will see the survey will be distributed beginning Monday, April 9th. Again, I'll say that. Survey will be distributed Monday, April 9th, and it will close on Friday, April 12th. So we have the 9th through the 12th, and we're looking for maximum participation in that survey from our current membership. Can I get a thumbs up that everyone can commit to completing that digital survey? All right. And if, we hope that that will set up planners, Janine and Karen, to be able to take those surveys, identify themes, and set up the steering committee that is going through a 2-day strategic planning retreat on the 18th and 19th, so that we have clear themes identified and feedback from all of you. With that being said, again, the 9th through the 12th. Be on the lookout in your inboxes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So we also realize that it is the time of year for us to hold elections, which is so wild to me that it's already been a year. So just wanted to put this on everyone's radar to start thinking about if you would like to run for chair or co-chair. We are gonna hold elections, and so I know in the past we have ended our meetings for this school year in May, but because of all of the strategic planning process, we really need the next May meeting to be focused on strategic planning. So we're hoping to host another June meeting. It's going to be early June, so hopefully you guys can all still join, before some of you go away for summer vacation. And we need to hold elections for that. So this is the call for nominations. If you would like to nominate yourself, or if you would like to nominate someone else, maybe run it by them first, if you feel so inclined, please email Vico, and then Vico is going to help to coordinate that process. So again, we'll be holding elections for chair and for co-chair of the coalition.
For sake of time, Raquel, perhaps if you and Adrian could write up a 3 to 5 sentence description of what your roles have been so far, we can include that in the newsletter.
Oh, that'd be great.
For anyone that's interested.
Okay, sounds great. We will do that. Okay. Let's move to the next slide. So as we mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, Michael and I just came off of a 2-hour meeting to start writing for a new grant. So just wanted to give you an update on a potential grant opportunity that the coalition is going to submit for the Drug-Free Communities Grant. And Michael, I'm turning it back to you.
Yeah, so we're very excited. We're deep into the grant writing process at this point. PCHD now has, we shortly will have a memorandum of understanding as required by the grant. Pima County will be applying for this. Pima County Health Department will be applying for this on behalf of this coalition. Just so you know, the background is we have to choose 2 substances that we want to focus on as a community. Just scanning on the health department side, I could easily identify that marijuana cannabis prevention education is an area that there's a gap. And then, so we've identified that marijuana and cannabis will be the first substance that we focus on, and I'll explain how in a second. The second will be fentanyl and other opioid-related drugs. We know that Pima County, it ranks #1 for overdose deaths overall in the state. And that includes fentanyl and opioids, but other substances. a couple of areas that we're looking to request funding for. So let me start with the amount of funding. This is $125,000 every year for 5 years. So a total of $625,000 we're looking to acquire to support coalition initiatives. We're looking to fund in 5 specific areas. One is going to be Narcan training for youth parents and youth serving professionals, right? We want to reduce the amount of overdose deaths in Pima County by educating about how to recognize the signs of opioid-related overdose and how to circumvent death in those scenarios with Narcan. We also want to provide marijuana prevention education for youth parents and youth serving adults, as well as fentanyl and opioid prevention education for the same audiences. We want to acquire funding to support programmatic activities of our Youth Health Action Team. That's going to include 2 day-long retreats for orientation and leadership development, as well as any sort of marketing media that they identify so that they can engage their peers, parents, and other youth serving professionals. We're also looking to acquire funding to extend a current partnership that we have with an organization that's part of the coalition, Not My Kid. Danielle, I think you're on the call. And so we're exploring that opportunity. They offer a program called Project Rewind, and that is to provide prevention education for students who have broken the code of conduct at their school sites. So it's a suspension diversion in most cases, but it's a 6-hour training that engages the student and their parents and caregivers in a 6-hour training in a holistic, humanizing way. And so we're addressing students who are at that secondary level of prevention. So they're already engaged in substance use at a mild to moderate addiction level. And so these are the 5 components that we're writing this grant for. This will be administered, if awarded, through contracts and subrecipient agreements, but more to come on that. It is due April 17th, so I will be writing until my hands are stubs.
And I do want to mention that there's been a lot of due diligence in terms of, checking to see if it makes sense for the coalition to write this grant. This Drug-Free Communities grant is designed for first-time applicants. So, we recognize there are other organizations in the community that also receive DFC grants. But because they've already received it for this grant opportunity, we won't be competing with them around that, if competing is even the right word. The other thing is that if we are, because I see a lot of questions about, is marijuana, and I completely understand, right? Is marijuana prevention something that's going to resonate with youth? Are they going to, how are they going to react to this type of programming? And I think you're right. I think some people actually answered in the chat is that it is going to depend on the approach. And one of the pieces, if we get the funding, is for the coalition to really identify the curriculum, right? To really go out and see like who's doing what in the community that's working, which curriculum is going to be the right approach for our community. And so it will be a wholehearted effort for us to make sure that what we do bring into the community is reflective and will resonate with youth. So I appreciate all of those concerns. I feel the same way, when I'm looking at this. And so I think that that's going to be something that I think could actually be a great conversation for another meeting. And I'd love to dedicate some time to that to really kind of talk through what that would look like and how it should be structured. So more to come with that, but it is, Cindy, as you said, it's really exciting. I feel like it's going to be competitive. And so, fingers crossed, we can bring this funding into our community. And, isn't this what the coalition is all about, right? Work together to help to deliver these educational programs to our youth and youth serving organizations. Okay, so I have a couple more things. I promised that we weren't going to, take too much of your time because we already took a full day of your time for the summit, but I still have 2 minutes left. So, oh, Michael, your hand is up.
I'm so sorry. I just, before you jump in, because it's related to that, I mentioned Not My Kid. I want to share with y'all that I already have a contract in place with Not My Kid, and we have the ability to engage 200 young people this fiscal year. So I'm looking at you, Cindy, Kathy, anyone working in youth settings. Kenneth, I know you do a lot of work with Higher Ground and youth who need resources. Anyone on this call who thinks Project Rewind could be useful, who are engaged in substances and could utilize this resource for them and their parent for free, email me and I will work to get you connected to Danielle and their team. But we have a meeting next week to kind of launch. We're putting this together because the need is very high in Pima County. And so we're trying to move fast. And I know you're approaching the end of your school year, but we have it's $200 per student that I will be able to pay for. So if you have youth in need, let's get them signed up and let's utilize these resources in our community. That's all. Sorry, Raquel, I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so just two more quick things. If I could have the next slide. I know at the last meeting, I asked everybody to fill out that membership form. Happy to say we now have about 30 entries. So Michael, can you do the next slide? Sorry. So if you haven't, oh, go one more. I'm sorry. Should be a QR code. There it is. If you haven't filled out the survey, if you could go ahead and do so, we still would like to collect that information. I have added the new prioritizing mental health and education work group to the survey form. I recognize those of you that have already filled it out, that wasn't an option to join that work group. So that's okay. I'm going to make a note of that in terms of, when things were entered. But moving forward, we will be offering that as a work group that you can join when you fill out that form. Okay, so next slide. Oh, Kenneth, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just tried to scan it and I'm getting the QR code campaign has been disabled for some reason. Your QR code scanner is working fine. So maybe it might be something on your end. I just want you to be aware of that.
Thank you. Let me see if that bit.ly will work because I can enter that into the chat. Yeah, it looks like that bit.ly is still working. So let me go ahead and enter that. Thanks for letting me know that, Kenneth. Let's go to the next slide. I will enter the bit.ly link in there. I want to do a quick call to the audience. Anybody have any upcoming events, things that you would like to share? And then let me make sure I typed that bit.ly in correctly. No, I didn't.
We've got Chelsea's hand up.
Chelsea, go ahead.
Awesome, thanks. I just wanted to quickly let everyone know, so the Metropolitan Education Commission holds an annual event called Civic Engagement Day. I did drop these details in the chat. That's taking place this month on Thursday the 18th, and all youth are welcome to join us. The training is actually being held this Saturday, which is a little short notice, but if we had students who were interested, we could kind of catch them up and bring them in. The idea is to take youth up to the Capitol and have them speak directly with legislatures about issues that are of interest to them. If they are able to join us on Saturday, we're meeting at 11 to train them on how to have those kinds of conversations. I'll drop my info in the chat if you want to reach out for more info. We'd love to get more students involved. Thanks.
Wonderful. And I see Brenda has mentioned that the NAMI Walks in Pima County is also this Saturday. So many great events happening in our community. If you ever want any of this stuff in the newsletter, please share all of this with Vico, and then they will put the information in the newsletter that goes out on a regular basis. At this point, that tends to be the best way for us to be sharing information with you in addition to the call to audience. Any other items? Okay. The May meeting, we're going to spend, I think, the majority of it with the strategic planning consultants and going over that data. So if you can make the May meeting, please, please, please try your best to do so. We really would love to have you there as we, set our goals and intentions for the coming years. Wonderful. Well, thank you all very much. It was great to see all of the activity in the chat and the thoughts and the collaborations and the offers for our Y-Hat to present to your groups. So really love the energy that we're feeling coming off of the summit and look forward to continuing this work. Thanks, everyone.